Stand clear.
100% Wild Podcast.
So for all you listeners,
hello and welcome to
definitely not your favorite outdoor podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the 100% Wild Podcast, brought to you by DeerCast. I'm joined by Mr. Matt Drury.
You're Mr. Tim Chelsvik. Tim the Killer Chelsvik.
I'm killing time.
TKK.
Just like the old Clint Black song, I kill time all turkey season.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump into kind of our turkey season updates. We've got a killer wild clip, a real wild clip this week that people need to stick around from. You know, people talk about coyote predation on deer, and can a coyote really take down a deer? Well, stick around.
Yeah, I've seen this one. I have actually seen this one this time, and
He's
it is
done
crazy.
Show research, folks.
Yeah, that's right.
We're real professionals.
I don't even know. Maybe Scott sent it to me or showed me. It was crazy.
We slacked it.
Yeah.
Slackers. So definitely stick around for that. The real wild word is not the real wild word.
Boy.
The wildlife word.
You are all over the board.
Well, after last show with Ray,
yeah,
we toasted, right?
Okay, you're still drunk.
I'm still hungover
that
from
happened
that.
a month ago.
Well, through the magic of podcasting, I'm still drunk. But it's medical. We're going to get a little medical, and we're going to be talking about turkey disease in the wildlife word.
All right, cool. So we this will be the last turkey-oriented episode for the spring, and
unless I kill in this last weekend, and then we're going to do a whole series on it.
No, we're going to move on. No one will ever know.
That's what happened when I killed the safe buck. Like, we finished the Dream Season series, and I didn't get the episode in on the safe buck. It's like an also ran, which, by the way, the taxidermist finally called me back. So this deer that I killed in November of 2021, finally finished.
21 or 21. Yeah. Wow. Hey, that's cool. I can't wait to bring him in, and we'll replace this giant buck with your safe buck, and we'll see what he looks like.
Can we put it side by side? Let's do that. Let's add some insult to
Well, what
injury.
we could do is like put all the Euro amounts I have from my younger days here.
Oh, yeah.
And then the safe buck will look huge.
We could put them inside the spread on that buck.
That's right. So we're going to recap a little bit of turkey season, our turkey seasons. And, it's kind of a general BS session. And so far, all the feedback from the Longbeard Legends series was fantastic. So we appreciate everybody watching, tuning in, listening. If you haven't seen those episodes yet, I know we're nearing the end of turkey season, but it's still worth a watch. And there's still some seasons that are coming in for people on turkey. So I think you guys could get a kick out of it. The guests were unbelievable. It was really kind of a pinch us kind of a moment to have all these great guests on.
I'm just happy to be a fly on the wall for those conversations. Having Ray, I kind of talk through all the memories that those guys, the experiences that those guys had together building the industry. And while, it's fun to hear kind of the tactics as we walk through the 5 phases of the turkey season as Ray I saw it, it was also great to hear the startup stories, the struggles that all those guys came through, and just the humility that they all have.
See, Tim, our struggles, they're going to pay off at some point.
Well, someday we'll be looking back on this time and those kids, those little pups.
Yeah. Hey, so before we jump into the stories here, I wanted to bring to attention something Mossy Oak's doing. So last year they had the turkey stamp they launched for conservation. I think they raised $100,000. I thought is what I saw on their website, that they reinvested back into habitat programs and research and those types of things. So they got a new stamp for this year, and you could go to mossyoak.com and check it out and purchase it. I think it's $15, so really, really cheap in the scheme of things. But it's a 2023 Wild Turkey Conservation Stamp. It's pretty neat. We have it right here. They're calling it Gamekeeper Grants. And that's what the money's going to. I know Daniel Hayes and the guys over there worked really hard to put this stuff together. So if you would, go check out mossyoak.com. And when you get the stamp in the mail, when you purchase it, it comes with a letter that describes what they did with last year's funds and what they're kind of planning on doing here. So it's a letter from Toxie Hayes. Pretty cool. And I think Mossy Oaks, they're talking... They always say they're the camo of conservation. And they really put their money where their mouth is. And they do a lot for the NWTF and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and all kinds of different conservation groups. So this is just one of their more recent efforts, and it's around the wild turkey. So go check it out.
I'm going to put in for one of those grants because I did my part by not killing a turkey.
Yeah, that's right. They should be paying you.
Yes.
But the stamp itself is really, really cool. It's a neat picture. I'm trying to think if they have who. It says Cap'n. I like
Hook.
that. Cap'n Hook's Gobblers. No, Cap'n Hook's Gobbler by Bob Tompkins. That's the artist.
That's one of those cool things that would be cool to keep in your family, like as an heirloom piece, and you pass it down.
Yeah, so last year I bought 3 of those, one for Mark, one for Terry, one for myself. This year I bought 3 again for each of us. So it's one of those neat deals where, hey, at some point maybe you create, some sort of frame and have several of them together. So anyways, that is the Moss Yoke Minute.
Yeah. Wow.
We start the show. I just made that up, Tim.
Dang.
You're not the only writer.
Man. Dang.
I write in my mind.
You do. All right, so let's go through. Let's do a little rewind here. I'd like to start with Cam's hunt.
Okay.
Because that's kind of a coming of age story.
Yeah. So we have a lease that we've talked about on here a ton that we killed a couple. It's just loaded with turkeys. It's worth keeping it just because it's loaded with turkeys. We've had our struggles with deer, but the turkey hunting out there is awesome. And so a few years back, we doubled on opening day with me and Aaron Bennett and myself. Last year, the landowner and his wife doubled. Scott and I had a little trouble. We had a bunch of jakes. 8 different jakes kept running off these 2 long bears that we were trying to kill. So we knew that this year was going to be probably pretty good. So opening day went well. We'll circle back to that. But Cameron, during the youth season, it was cold and windy. We didn't have any luck. Coon Dog came with us. It was just a tough hunt because it was frigid temperatures and super windy. You were out and recall it was just a bad day to go. The next day was great, but we couldn't hunt that day. So, we were looking forward to the Missouri regular season to get back out there and try it again. His mom would not let me take him out of school because he's, had a few days where he's missed this year. She's like, no, you're not taking him. I'm like, dang it. Because opening day I felt like would be almost automatic. And so anyways, we waited till the first Saturday of the Missouri season, and we went back to the lease that I'm talking about, and we set up in this. It's a box blind that we don't have a platform for. So Doug, the landowner, had set it out with a skid steer right next to our clover plot. Like, it's in a really good spot where historically the turkey love to go into this field and strut. And if you're there long enough, you should see them crossing through this field at some point. And so our strategy was just kind of like, with him, you can't run a gun. We have a bog pod that we bought and I got a 410 shotgun that we had set up on it. Leading up to it, he's not shot guns a ton. It was Red Ryder BB guns and that kind of stuff. When we go to Dad's farm, like, he loves shooting that kind of stuff. But an actual something with a little kick, he's never really had that experience, and he is a little bit smaller for his age. So I was worried about that leading up to that. So we started with the Wildcat 22 from Winchester, and that Wildcat is so fun to shoot. So he got I went down to Mom and Dad's, this is months ago, and Dad kind of took him through, the safety tips and procedures. And we've gone through all that, but it's always nice to have somebody that's not your dad telling you. So for Cameron,
sounds different.
It does. And he knows that Papa Terry's kind of an authority in this field. So he was listening. Dad's really good for as impatient as he is, and many other ways of life. He is very good with kids and teaching them the safety and just kind of how you aim and do all that stuff. So I wanted Dad to kind of be a part of that experience with us. And we shot the 22, had fun, popping balloons, all that kind of stuff. So then kind of weeks later, maybe even a month later, I had the 410 ready. Scott and I had shot it, and because I wanted to make sure I shot it to see just kind of what the kick was like.
Yeah.
Because you said that your 410 that Sophie has
got a little punch.
Got a little punch. It has a synthetic stock, right?
Yeah.
And so
it's a little lighter.
It's a little bit lighter. This is a wood stock 410, really pretty gun. And so we shot it, and it's like, it doesn't really kick hardly at all. So I felt good about it. We got the bog pod. We set Cameron up. And so that day when I went back to mom and dad's, they weren't there. So it was just me and Cameron. And I wanted him to get a very good, he wanted to shoot the Wildcat again. He's like, I don't really, the noise and it's loud. And we had Walker's game ears and all that stuff. But he was a little scared of the idea of shooting a shotgun, a real gun. And, even though the 22 it's something with a little more kick.
Sure.
The 410. So anyways, we shot the Wildcat for a long time. He shot great. He was shooting. I got a turkey target. So he's like aiming for the eyeball and all that. Yeah, he was sniping. So we go to shoot the shotgun. I set it up on the bog pod. I set him up on a little, like a ground blind chair, like one of those little triangle little chairs.
Yeah.
And right out of the gate, I had it on uneven ground. And as I'm getting the gun set up, the chair started leaning backwards and he fell backwards. And, it was like almost over before it started. He's like, I don't want to do this.
Sour.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to do this. I'm like,
what are you
buddy,
doing to me?
I promise, I'm sorry. We could stand up. So I kind of readjusted everything on the bog pod so we could stand up and shoot, which is probably what we were going to be doing in the blind anyways. So dad error right out of the gate, but we got it fixed. He's like, I don't want to shoot it. I was like, I tell you what, I'll shoot it so you can hear it. You can be right next to me. He backed up like 10 feet. I was like, no. Come right next to me when I shoot. And then you can hear and see. Yeah. It's not that bad. So I did it. He's like, okay, I'll try it. And he shot great. A little high, a little left, but in general, shot really good. We shot maybe 3-4 shots and went on our way. So I'm giving you a lot of backstory because I am very I wrote this in the journal entry for his hunt. I'm pretty passionate about how you get a youth started in hunting from a standpoint of it has to be right for your family, your kid. Like he's 8. For a lot of people, they start at 5 or 6. If you live in the country and you're around it a lot and you're shooting guns, and it's a little bit different. Yeah. And I see like Lee and Tiffany's sons out there, and Pat Nicole's son. Eric Bouthen's kids. Like we're younger, but they're all living that lifestyle a lot more than we are as a family.
Different context.
We're in the suburbs. We're into sports. We're not really the kids aren't in the woods a lot. So anyways, I'm saying all this to kind of give you the backstory of the approach we took leading up to making sure he was comfortable to shoot the gun. Yeah. Fast forward to the first Saturday of the Missouri season, and we get up, we live about an hour from the lease. So I got up at, 3:30, woke him up at 4, got in the truck, headed out there, and I got pulled over on the way out there because somebody was driving a little too fast. And the other area where I screwed up, I was thinking about the time that we got up and went out when it was youth season. Well, that was a month earlier, whatever, weeks earlier. And I just didn't I didn't think about it.
That changes quite a bit this time of year.
Yeah. And so I'm speeding because I'm late.
Okay. Crap.
And Scott's meeting us out there at the lease. And so we get pulled over, and I'm like, crap, this is going to take at least 10
balloons
15,
out the window.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes. So I pull over, I turn the dome light on because it's obviously it's still dark out, and I want to make sure it's a very comfortable situation for the police officer. Yeah. So he walks up on Cameron's side, on the passenger side, and he sees Cameron, which I also kind of wanted to make sure he saw Cameron in there. And I had my license ready, and I said, as soon as he walked up, I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry about that, because I was going very fast. And he's like, well, you did a good job of slowing down from 81 to 60 when you passed me. I was like, I didn't even notice.
In what, a 55?
Yeah. So,
okay. Yep.
Anyway, moving
He
on.
gotcha.
so I apologize. Matt apologized. Let's move on. And, so I told him, I was like, hey, he goes, has he ever hunted before? I was like, well, we went for youth season. It was really bad. You know, it was a bad experience from the weather standpoint. So I'm trying to get him out here early and give him a much better experience. He's like, all right, let me see your license. And he went back to his car and you know, I did a little video on Instagram. It's funny because I filmed the cherries in the rear view and I turn around to Cameron to get his thoughts. And he didn't say, all he said was, I'm telling mom. Like, you son of a
You're
gun.
busted.
yeah, like just can't wait to rat you out.
Yeah.
So the police officer walks back up, hands me my license. He goes, hey, I'm going to give you a warning. He goes, I remember my first turkey hunt. And I'm pretty sure my dad was probably speeding to get us out into the woods. And I thought that was such a cool, you know, give you goosebumps kind of like, it was just such a nice thing for him to do.
Especially because he had to have seen your record.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't need a warning. He knows.
Yeah, that's right. So he was very kind and generous. And so he let us go and we pull away. And I told Cameron, I'm like, hey, man, that's Mark and Terry, like we're all big believers in omens and like karma and those types of things. And like when something turns your way, it means, hey, you're going to have a good hunt. They're into lucky songs and this and that, you know? So I told Cameron, I said, hey man, he wished us good luck. I go, we're going to kill a turkey this morning. That's good luck. And
maybe that's what I've been missing. Is
you need to get pulled over. Go speeding through
law enforcement
down 44 and see.
Yeah.
On 44, you're going to need to go a little faster.
Honey,
it's about 90,
Daddy's gonna do something a
100.
little different this morning.
No, I don't endorse that. So anyways, we get to the farm. Scott's got everything ready for us to roll. We load up and we head out. And it is... The sun is like, as I pulled into the farm, I'm like, man, it's starting to crack. We're late. And my whole plan was to be done off the roost because I thought we were going to be in on them and they were going to fly down and see the deeks and boom, be done early breakfast. So we get out there, we're putting out the decoys, we're doing all this and that. And it's kind of, we spooked 3 or 4 deer on the way in off the field, you know, never helps. And I just thought, man, if they were roosted here, no way they're flying in. And so we sit there and make some calls, you know, nothing's gobbling, not hearing anything. It's a calm morning, so I thought it's cold, but it's calm.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to hear a ton of gobbling off the roost because the day before it was super windy. Nothing. So Cam falls asleep. It's like he fell asleep. He slept for like an hour and a half, you know, and Scott and I continue to call a little bit and keep, you know, hey, we're out here. Here we are.
Yeah.
Does anybody hear us?
Something to do.
Yeah. So we keep calling, and I'm using box call and switching to slate call, and you know, back and forth. And I got a Reconnex trail camera picture off of our front field of a Jake, or what I thought was a Jake. Maybe he's just had beard rot or something. I don't know. And long beard. And that was at like a 7:15, and they were kind of headed in our general direction. I was like, hey, this is. Maybe we'll see them here. So I just kept calling, you know, to just let them know we were over here. And that's probably 400 yards, probably 400 yards away. I don't know, something like that, with a, you know, timber in between. And out of nowhere, just hammer right out of nowhere. And so I look at Scott, and Cameron's still sleeping, and I made a call. Double gobble, and I was like, holy cow, they're right. I peek out my window and they are 20 yards from us. Jeez. They popped out of the timber. It's amazing how they locate, and they knew where that sound was coming from, and they popped out right next to us. And so we're trying to wake Cameron. I try shaking him. Scott tried, hey bud, get up. You know, we're Scott grabbed his head, like trying to wiggle him around a little bit, like get up. Finally, I got him up, and he is out of it, you know.
Yeah, an hour and a half sleeping.
Yeah, and so I'm like, bud, the turkeys are here, and then they gobble again. I was like, and he kind of starts getting with it. So he stands up. I get his Walker's game ear on him, and I think I made like one more call, and they gobble again, and I can see Scott and Cameron cannot see him because they're to my left out of the window, and we got covers and stuff up so that you can't. You know, they can't see in. And they're full strut, and they're pecking, and they're kind of spitting and drumming. And so they fire up one more time, and that's when Cameron, it clicked, and he looked over at me Like he smiled, and I could tell, okay, this is the whole experience I've been wanting. He's not ever had. I've been wanting for him to hear the goblin, hear the spitting and drumming, and experience this. So here it's happening. And they spit and drum, and they strut. They walk within 2 feet of the blind. Like you could have grabbed them. And I see him coming, and I looked at Scott, and my eyes got huge because I'm like right here because I knew he couldn't see him yet. And they walked right in front of, like they could have, jumped up on the gun barrel and strutted right in front of the blind. It's crazy.
It's amazing how they lock in.
But those Avian X decoys, man, they locked in on them, and we had a HDR Jake and a lay down hen, I think, out. And they commit right to it. And I knew that the problem was going to be that they were going to be too close to each other. And they were. And that for Cameron, he's shooting an open sight, a 410.
Yeah.
Not a ton of experience, obviously. It's on a bog pod. I can't aim it for him, so he's got to.
It's all him.
It's all him. And when we set it up, I did aim it at the decoy, so it was generally in the right direction. But he was going to have to make the micro adjustments. And so I loosened up that bog pod, the fluid head, and the gun kind of, made
There's
big.
a fine line there.
Yeah, so it drops a lot, and so it rose a lot. I forget. And anyway, so we got it back in, and he knows how to aim it. So he was kind of aiming, and I just kept, all right, we're not going to shoot until you're ready to shoot. If we don't kill anything, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. This is all just supposed to be fun, because I didn't want to put undue pressure on him.
Yeah.
And just make a bad situation. I've seen a lot of hunts that have come in from our team with youth hunts, and this isn't a knock on anybody, but it always to me seems like the dad takes over the hunt, and it's all about him. Shoot it. Yeah. They make bad decisions because the dad really wants the kid to kill something, and it's the excitement of the moment. And I've always in my mind thought we're not going to do that. No, for years I've thought that. And so we got to the moment, and here it was our opportunity, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't about Scott and I, it wasn't about the cameras, it wasn't about the company, it was about Cameron's moment, and if he has a good ethical shot. So you hear me say wait like 30 times.
It seems like forever.
It was like a minute, 2 minutes worth, and I'd say, all right, do you have him? You have to have him, just and because one had a long beard and the other didn't, it did help us hone in on one specific animal.
Yeah,
and so I just kept saying, wait. All right, you got him, because they'd free up for a second or they split up for a second. And I'm like, all right, if you have him, he's like, I got him. And then they'd move close to each other again. And they're circling, and the Longbeard's, like taking his wing and like hitting the decoy. I mean, it's a really
How far
cool.
out were the decoys from the blind?
15 steps, I think Scott had it out there. So close. For a 410, we wanted it to be like within 20. And but also because of the open sights, I just wanted him to be able to be close enough to easily put the bead on the head of the turkey. So finally, after like a bunch of me saying, wait, okay, no, wait, okay, they separated enough. I said, okay, if you got him, it's all on you. He's like, I got him. I said, all right, it's up to you. And he pulled the trigger, and he shot the Longbeard was like a little bit behind our decoy, and he shot the beak off the decoy, and he spined the gobbler, but he drops right in his tracks. So I couldn't, perfect, really. I mean, I couldn't be happier because he dropped, because I was worried that, here's the other thing, like I don't know how other people do it, but it's youth season, it's his tag. I can't then take the gun and follow up. It's just not, you can't do that.
Well, this was regular season.
Yeah, it was regular season, but and I guess technically I could have, because I had a second tag, but I wasn't gonna.
Yeah.
It was his turkey, but I was prepared to run out there and
do whatever it takes.
Get on the neck, step on the neck real quick. But it wasn't one of those situations. He killed it right away. And so we were really proud. Scott and I were very excited about what just happened, because we knew the way that it played out, the footage, the way the turkeys went into the decoys, like it was just camp. Scott had great footage, a bunch of tact cams rolling, great tact cam footage of every angle. Like we had it covered. He produced the hell out of it. So we just knew it was awesome. So we're jacked up. And Cameron's, he's a low key kid. And so it wasn't It wasn't like, screaming or, I'm the man kind of stuff. But, he, you could tell that in his way, he was excited.
Sure.
And as the day went on, as he got to tell his mom, as he got to tell his Papa Terry and his cousins, and we brought the bird back to my house and showed everybody.
The victory lapping.
Yeah, that's where he started to peacock a little bit, and it was cool to see his confidence grow a little bit there. So that was the story. It was a very special, very neat moment for us.
That's cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
As you know, you've been a part of them.
Yeah. Although with Sophie, we have not yet had a turkey hunt where she has immediately recovered her bird. So just as like the highest of highs on Cam's hunt, so Sophie and I went out for opening morning of youth season, and it was super, super windy. It was cold, and I didn't have a blind set up. Like we were going to go to the farm in Bourbon and just kind of listen and see. And then so I've got she can carry the buddy heater and her little bag of snacks.
Yeah. And you got everything else.
Dad's got the decoys, the blind, the crossbow, because that's a whole thing. She doesn't want to shoot a gun. It's not a principal thing. She's afraid of the sound of a gun. Even with hearing protection, she's afraid of it. So she likes using the crossbow. And so she has never. One time, Scott came and hunted with us, and we had a long-beard walk in front of us and gobble, but it was in the cedars. Like she didn't get it. She has not had the full turkey hunting experience. She's not seen the show.
Yeah.
So I had high hopes, but it was stupid windy. So this center pasture on this farm is always like a good central location for birds to come through, even if they're not roosted near there. The winds, I don't know, the winds were probably gusting at 30 miles an hour up there on top, but I found this little spot down in the center pasture where the wind was kind of just going over our heads, and it was nice and almost calm. So I'm popping up I've got one of those Muddy VS 360 blinds, which I'm super fast to set up, and I'm getting it set up. She crawls in. I'm putting the decoys out. Put the decoys out at like 10 steps, and we crawl in, and immediately, in the woods, probably 60, 70 yards, so just to the west of us. And she looks at me, and I look at her, and like, okay,
it's gonna happen.
It's game on.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting the camera set up and everything, and it's still dark out. We had plenty of time, and she I pulled the blind windows down, kind of like we're open for business. Here we go. The sun's kind of pinkish over on the eastern horizon. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And these birds are still gobbling. Then we hear them fly down, hit the ground. They're firing off again. There's at least 2 of them, maybe 3 over there. And there's a small creek in between us. So I said, okay, let's, just get ready. This is fun. Like, this is why we're doing it. And so I'm listening, I'm calling a little bit, but then I'm hearing those birds walking away. And we're also hearing a few hens that are in that tree line. The hens go to the gobblers.
Always ruin the fun.
So we're sitting there, but it's still, the sun had not yet fully risen. It's still kind of that twilight time, and this longbeard steps out of the tree line at probably 80 yards in front of us, and I'm like, Sophie, there's a bird, and she sees him, and he's silent. He just kind of starts sidling towards us, kind of making an angle, and so I'm like, okay, get up, get on the crossbow, just get ready, and we'll wait for a good shot. And he starts kind of sidling across at an angle. Then he cuts, and I call to him again, but he still doesn't. He's still not talking. He's not strutted up. He's coming in all slick down, and he gets to probably 20, maybe 18 yards, and I'm like, "Are you on him?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm on him." And she takes a shot, and I hear the thwack, and I'm filming everything, and a bunch of feathers go flying. And the bird tries to jump up and fly away, and it can't.
Sure.
And so it starts running towards the tree line again. So I zip open the blind. I still got the camera in my hands, and I take off running after it. But in the moment after she took the shot, I heard her whimper like she was crying because she was like so excited and nervous.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want her to be alone in the blind. Like Dad just took off running, left me alone here on the farm. So I take it because I was watching the bird as he was running, And I'm like, I can catch him. Like, he's not going so fast that I can't catch him. And I turn around, look at her, and I look back at the tree line, and the bird is gone. So I wait for her to catch up to me, and we kind of jog over to the tree line. And I'm expecting to see the bird laying somewhere around in there, and I don't. And so I do a quick little look into the woods, because anytime a turkey runs on you, man, they just don't bleed out like a deer does. The feathers kind of mat the blood, and you can't blood trail them. Usually you can find a few feathers. I found 0 feathers. I didn't see the bird. I didn't see like a twig twisting, or like, I just saw no sign of it. So I'm like, all right, let's go back and look at the bolt and see what that looks like. And it was covered front to back with good organ blood. Huh. And so I'm like, Sophie, this is a dead bird. We just got to find it. So I spent the next 4 hours. I probably covered 4 miles of thick briars and nasty stuff, crisscrossing back and forth, just desperate to find this turkey.
That's tough.
Because it's no longer like the principle of finding an animal that you've wounded. It's also Sophie, who is just kind of heartbroken, waiting in the wings for some good news.
Yeah.
And I never found it.
Where do you think, when you looked at the video, where did she hit it?
She hit it, I think, a little far back, but still in the body cavity. Like, it didn't have gut material on it. It had good red, so maybe like liver area. It was really good, but it was dark. It was dark blood, and she was using one of the Rage no collar chisel tips. Like, that's a 2-3 cut.
Yeah,
like,
it's dead somewhere.
It's a big cut on a bird. So like I said, I looked till probably noon. And she just kind of hung out in the truck because it was cold. It was windy. She was cold. And I never found it. I went back that next weekend to the farm to do some scouting, and I found that the remains of that turkey in the center pasture, probably 100 yards from where we shot it, and it was just completely ripped apart. I was able to salvage. I called conservation agent Barnes, asked for a salvage tag, got that, because he's like, do you know, are you positive it's her bird? Like, well, I probably is, but I don't know for certain that this is her gobbler. He's like, well, I'll send you a salvage tag and, make it legal. So I collected some feathers. I was hoping to find the beard, maybe the spurs. Yeah. The coyotes just did number. I brought some tail feathers home for her. At least we had some closure that, yes, it was a lethal shot. You killed your bird. I just hate the way that it turned out.
Archery hunting turkeys is so tough, man. It can go either way a lot of times. No matter what, it could have been a great hit like this or whatever. It's still, there's a lot that can go sideways on you.
Yeah, if they run, it's anybody's guess, especially. So I think that bird just hunkered down.
Sure.
Real tight, got himself up in a root wad or something and just hunkered down.
Yeah.
So
that sucks for her, for you, but you hate it for her because they have kind of a negative experience, after, because one of the things leading up to it that we talked about a lot is like, does a turkey feel it when you shoot? Does it, like they really wonder about when you kill something, which they should. You want them to wonder about that.
It's serious business when you take an animal's life.
And I hate it for her. But you said she went out with you a couple more times after that.
Yeah. So we went out last weekend and we called a couple birds in right off the roost. They flew down, left their hens, came from like 200 yards away. We're watching them, getting great footage. The whole and they're strutting and they're spitting and drumming. They're coming in close, and I'm like, all right, take your shot. And she's like, it doesn't work. It's not working. And we're having to whisper because the birds are right there. Yeah. And I'm dying inside, like, oh, what's not? Is the crossbow not on safe? Because I tried to get the 410 out to have her shoot it again, and she's like, I just can't. I'm afraid of it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So we took the crossbow out, and what ended up happening was after the birds left, she was like, I couldn't see. And I think because she was kind of hunched over waiting because the crossbow was on the bog pod. I don't know if it was like just the morning dew and the mist in the air that kind of fogged up the scope.
Yeah.
Or if it was her kind of hunched down and breathing near it. But she's like, I couldn't see anything. It was just a blur in there. So she got the full turkey show which was cool because the first bird she shot at and hit came in slick down. She didn't get to see the big fantastic thing that turkey does. So she got to see all that. So I feel like she keeps getting closer and closer and closer.
It's gonna make it more special when it all happens.
It'll be quite a story because she's been turkey hunting now for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So she's definitely. So I told her, I said, Sophie, in my mind, you are a real turkey hunter. You're getting up early. You're putting in the time. You're going through the lows.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to happen. And but in the meantime, you're a turkey. Plus, she got to drive the truck on the farm. She found some morels.
Yeah.
It was a fun trip overall, but
Yeah.
still, your heart breaks. You hate to see your kid suffer or something like that.
I think it was 3 or 4 years till I killed my first turkey of hunting with Dad. And I mean, it just we back then had a tough time getting on animal, whether it was for whitetails or turkeys. It was like 5 years till I killed my first deer. It was 5 or 6 years. I mean, it was a long time of going to try to harvest something. And finally, and at that time they were starting the business, so it was always packing a camera, and that added a different element because those cameras were gigantic. Yeah. And finally, on my first turkey, it was raining. We were with a family friend. His name's Bill Carl, since passed away, but we were on his family farm, and it was pouring down raining, and we saw some gobblers or something in a pasture, and finally Dad was like, I hated the camera. I hated it because in my mind I felt like it was preventing us from having an opportunity.
Wasn't helping, yeah.
And besides that, as a 12, 13, 11, 10, whatever years old, I hated being on camera. And I kind of sensed that with my son Cameron. My daughter Lola, just loves everything about it. Just different personalities. So anyways, I think, finally Dad was like, screw it. Let's leave the camera in the truck. And we belly crawled a couple 100 yards and popped up, and he float called in the back, and I was with Bill Carl, and we harvested our first bird. It was like 25-pound bird, 11-inch deer. So it was awesome when it finally happened, and it was a cool experience. But finally, it took Dad saying, you know what, it's not about, let's get him a bird. Yeah. And sometimes it was worth the wait, but sometimes the dad has to just say, all right, we just need to go make it happen.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Sophie will get okay with the shotgun, and that will open up a whole new world.
Does she shoot a 22 or anything like that? She
shot my 17. So and she's okay with that, and obviously we've got a little Red Ryder. She likes shooting that. It's funny because Bo loves shooting the 410, and Bo's like half of her size. Yeah. But he loves the recoil. He loves the whole experience. Animal. Yes.
Bow madness.
100%.
Well, that's that. Hopefully you guys will still have some luck here.
A little bit of time left.
Yep.
So we'll see. Do you want to hop into the real wild clip, and then we can touch on the rest of our seasons?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, the real wild clip is brought to you by Silencer Central, and this is graphic.
Oh boy.
Graphic and violent.
Rated R, huh?
Here we go. All right, it's someone's trail camera. It's over a little green field, and you see a doe standing out. Well, it's a mature whitetail standing out there in the field, and then this coyote comes in from stage left, charging it, chases it for a second, grabs it by the neck,
takes it down,
wrestles it down.
Tears it apart.
It's got its mouth, jaws clamped down on its neck, and the deer is kicking and rolling around trying to get up.
It's amazing to see the power of a coyote. I mean, they're not like they're huge. It's not a wolf, but the power to be able to first catch the deer, then take it down by the neck. I mean, and then because the doe's got a ton of power too.
Yeah.
To be able to basically just sit there until it punctures its lungs or whatever it's doing, its throat or whatever.
So, in my mind, I always think, a pack of coyotes can probably coordinate and take down a mature deer. But here you see, like, it's just like a light switch going off. This one coyote looks at one mature deer and decides, I'm going to go after it.
And how calm the coyote is about it. Like it's
business as usual.
Pretty chilling, really.
Well,
and think about how the coyote approaches the doe there. Not even like full speed at the beginning.
I think the doe was surprised that he decided to charge her.
Yeah. So just another reminder of Mother Nature can be pretty cruel. Like, to non-hunters out there that don't like the idea of hunting. I mean, what happens in the wild is far worse a lot of times.
Well, hunting is happening in the wild whether we're out there or not. Yeah. Everything is hunting something else.
Yeah, pretty crazy, real wild clip of the week.
Oh, that was wild. Weird, wild stuff.
All right. Well, want to jump into opening day a little bit? Okay, so you don't have anything to share.
I'll just sit here quietly.
All right, so opening day of the Missouri turkey season. I knew that our landowner on the lease was going to be out there with his wife. She's pregnant, Kate, 9 months pregnant, and she really wanted to kill a turkey with a baby. And every year they're out on opening day, and they've doubled every year. All 3 years that we've been there, they've doubled on opening day. So this turkey, it's just a great turkey farm, and there's a lot of birds on it. So I knew that we couldn't get out there at roost time because I had to drop the kids off at school because Randa had to work early. And so I took the kids to school, and the plan all along was to get there at 8 o'clock, 8:30, whatever. And Scott and I have just a little bit of a later hunt. And so Doug and his wife, Kate, they hunted the front field where we had been getting a bunch of trail cam pictures of turkeys. So they hunted there and killed right off the roost. And there were 3 longbeards that came in there. They killed 2 of them. One still existed there. And I didn't know what our morning was going to be like because obviously as we were heading out there, we already knew that they doubled.
Yeah.
But as far as intrusion goes, they're at the very front field on the property, and it was pretty low, just a half hour or whatever it took to kill off the roost, and pretty low intrusion in general. Didn't have to make a lot of calls. And so I knew there was a ton of turkeys there because the year before, like I said, that there was 8 jakes and 2 longbeards left that we couldn't get, we just couldn't get on. So the 2 longbeards. So I felt like there was going to be a decent group of turkeys. So we went out to the spot where this blind that Cameron ends up killing out of, we had put it out there for him for youth season. Mm-hmm. It was in a great spot. So I'm like, screw it. Let's go. We're a little bit late. Let's go straight to that blind and set up some decoys. Well, on our way, kind of driving back there on the tracker, I spotted 3 turkeys. I felt like, 3 gobblers. I couldn't tell. They were on the kind of wood line there in the field. And they didn't really run off. You're talking a few hundred yards away, but they kind of started walking off. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe they're heading back to that field. If we can get on the other side of this, kind of like this ridge and get around them, set out some decoys, start making some calls, maybe they'll come in. So we did that. We jumped in the blind. We got our decoys out. We jumped in the blind. And Dad had told me the day before, he's like, hey, if they're by themselves and don't have any hens, he's like, you almost can't overcall at this point in the season. Mm-hmm. So just keep hammering them. So I was using the box call. It was I think it was a little windy that much. So I was using the box call, and we never saw those 3 turkeys come in. A little bit later, I saw them on trail camera on our backfield. So they had just kind of kept on the direction they were going instead of kind of coming back in that field we were on. So we just kept kind of calling, making a few calls, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, I know what it was. I was out of nowhere. Like every once in a while I'd call just to kind of remind anything out there that we're in this area. I pulled out my slate call from HS and made a few calls there because I had been using the box call. And maybe 10 minutes later, we heard a gobble. And I look one way, Scott looks another, and I was like, I think it's over there. And
was it one of these?
Yeah, it was opposite directions. And because we weren't expecting it. And I call with that slate call, and I look out, and when they did that, they pop out of the timber, same side of the timber that Cameron's birds popped out, but like several hundred yards down the field. Okay. And they committed the 4 longbeards. I put the loopholes up, and all of them were longbeards, and they committed straight to us, came straight to the call-in
Okay.
and decoys. And I think I might have made another call or two, but then just sat there and got ready because they saw the decoys and committed to us. And so all 4 of these birds come in, and Scott's got all the Tacticams rolling, and it's really convenient. Those Tacticams with the remote system, he hits the remote and 4 or 5 cameras, 6 cameras turn on, whatever it is. And they come right into the decoys, and they're doing their thing. All 4 of them are like, you know, pushing each other out of the way, strutting, trying to get into that decoy setup.
Yeah.
And so here again, we're in this situation where it's like, all right, I'm on the right, I'm on the left, I'm on the middle, I'm on the. They wouldn't separate, and finally one separates. I grabbed that new 20 gauge. That gun is sweet.
Pretty cool.
I've done some stories with it. It's a Winchester SXP. It's a 50th anniversary NWTF anniversary edition gun. And this one that a bunch of us ordered in here, and I think Coondog, I know Mark and Terry all got one. It's got Bottomland camo on it, and then it's got the OD green. And it is a sweet looking gun.
Yeah.
And I had never used a gun because when I first started turkey hunting, Mark and Terry started using red dots back then. And then, you know, when we jumped over to Nikon, they switched and started putting scopes on their guns, which I know is irregular for most turkey hunters. They just shoot open sights or a red dot or something like that. But for me, I had never shot anything but a red dot or a scope.
Yeah.
And this gun, I got it in and didn't have a chance to put anything on it yet. So it was open sights, which was the first time I'd ever shot an open sight gun at anything. I mean, I've done clay pigeons and stuff like that, but otherwise I've always had scopes on everything, or red dot. So anyways, these turkeys come in, probably 20 yards of the decoys, finally get a shot, pull the trigger, bang, drop a turkey, and then they stick around like a lot of times they will. And I was like, hey, they're going to flog this turkey. And Scott, I tried handing him the gun. In my haste, I kind of jammed it, trying to, jack another shell in, and so I set that down because we also have my 12 gauge SXP, or no, SX3 I think it was, and he picks that up, and we wait another 30 seconds. He waits till they separate, and boom, he drops his. We got it on camera. Opening day double at we were there for maybe an hour, and it was not traditional because we weren't there, early on. We didn't have to wake up super early, 3 a.m. It was really kind of nice.
Better, yeah.
We were walking in tall cotton because we felt like
That's how you do it, folks.
We were peacocking, and I'm a shitty caller, and I'll be the first to admit it. And trying to learn, when you go with Mark and Terry so much growing up, I never got a chance to call.
Sure.
So in the last couple years, just like the deer hunting, as trying to learn all this stuff and doing it for myself, the turkey hunting's been last year was really the first year where I was calling a lot on my own, without somebody else, and Scott was too. But this was the first time I had ever killed anything calling a bird in.
Yeah.
And so that felt pretty good. And I know I'm too old to be saying that kind of stuff, but it's just the reality of it. I've always been with good callers, a Coondog or a Chris Comstock or somebody like that.
True. Also, there are people who are coming to turkey hunting for the first time as adults, and so there are other people that are having these experiences, and it's kind of like the path to becoming a Jedi. Like when you call a bird in, especially if you're using a mouth call, there's so many components to turkey hunting that okay, I killed one out of a blind. Maybe next year I'll kill one sitting at the base of a tree. And
I had the mouth call in, and because I know, from being on all these hunts with the guys, that once they got in, Scott's filming. He's not going to have a free hand. I got the gun up. I'm not going to have a free hand. But my preference is to use a friction, slate or a box call to get them in. Mm-hmm. But I knew that if they got in, I might have to mouth call. Yeah. And I've practiced. I'm okay enough to, I think, elicit a response. But what I noticed was I had my face mask up. I had the Finisher series, from Blocker Outdoors, and I got a big, giant, fat head, so I couldn't hardly move my mouth.
It's different.
With
it is
that,
different.
because they got it's like a neck gaiter, for the face covering. And I was having trouble. I did make a couple calls, but they didn't even really respond to it. But I did make some calls, but I'm like, shit, I can't hardly make the right.
You realize that once it's on.
The jaw, I didn't have the ability to move my jaw like I needed to. Anyways, but it was a cool experience. And after 2022 sucking so bad for us between turkey and deer season, it felt really good. Opening day, our
Monkeys
first
off the back.
opportunity for 23. Like, hey, we turned the page. Let's go. Let's go have us a year. And so it was a real, I think, sense of pride for both of us that we don't suck.
Well deserved. You guys definitely put the time in.
So it was a very fun hunt, very quick hunt. But, it's one of those things where it just was a neat experience.
Heck yeah.
So
better than sticking it out till 1 o'clock and then just being tired from just sitting around.
That's right.
It's amazing how hard it is just to sit around.
Well, so this past Friday, so Scott and I both tagged a bird. We got Cameron a bird, which was really our only goal anyways. And Scott's been very great to help us out and go on a Saturday to help with Cameron and all that stuff. But we wanted to go to our new property, the new farm that I bought, and try it out. And I got a lease next to that. So I wanted to try that out at some point. Yeah. And there are turkeys up there, but I just didn't know. Yeah, I really don't have much intel. But it's so far away. It's like an hour and 45 minutes from my house.
At least for early morning.
So our plan was, I'm like, screw it. I said, hey, we already killed a bird. Like, let's just get up there. Normal time, 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and just see how the rest of the day. We don't even know what kind of birds we got up there. Yeah. Well, so I was talking to Adam Wainwright, and he was off because he's been rehabbing, and he was between starts in the minors. So he's a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. So we started talking, and I was like, hey, I'm going tomorrow. Do you want to go? And he's like, what time? I was like, whenever. I don't really care, And he's like, yeah, I guess. And I talked to Aaron Bennett, who we have hunted with Adam several times before turkey hunting. We've never gotten him on a bird, ever. And so I told Aaron, and he's like, hey, wait, and I got a few properties up there, or clients up there. I might be able to get us access to some more dirt. Nice. So he got us access to, because I have 93 acres, and I have a lease that's like 160 acres in that area. Okay. And so I was perfectly content with that, but Aaron's like, no, I think I can find a spot. He got a spot that was 600 acres, a landowner that was gracious enough to allow us to come hunt. Yeah. That's, but it's up there. It's an hour and 45 minutes away. So he's like, I told him, I was like, I don't want to, we're not going to get up that early. He's like, if you want to Adam to kill a bird, we need to be there at roost time. Yeah. I was like, shit, man. Okay. So I texted Adam and I was like, what do you think? He's like, I had said 4 o'clock, or I'd pick him up at 4 o'clock. And he's like, 4? Oh, man. He's just like, okay, screw it. Let's do it. And I was like, all right, I got to get up at like 2:30 to go. He lives out, 35, 40 minutes from me. Okay. I'm way the hell out there. So anyways, I woke up at like 2:20. I just couldn't sleep. One of those deals where you might
as well not even go to sleep that night.
It was brutal. And I was like, screw it, I'm up. Like, let's get ready and let's go have us a day. So I get to his place at like 3:40, and I text him, and Aaron and I were texting on the way up. And I was like, what do you think the odds are that he's even up yet? These ball players,
kick in the pants?
They stay up super late, these guys. And I mean, they're always up. Their schedules are just all jacked up. And I've known this about Adam. He stays up late. And so I was like, I bet he's still sleeping. So I text him. He answers right away. Yeah. There's a gate to his community, so I needed a code to get in to go pick him up. And 3:40, 3:50, he popped out, and we headed on our way. Met up with Aaron and Scott at like 5:05, and we got to the farm. We listened, and it was real quiet. I'm like, shit, man. Like, I'm thinking this is, I wanted to kill one off the roost for him so we could go have breakfast. And he's a big foodie, and so I was like, we're gonna go get breakfast. This is gonna be a great morning. Nothing. So we kind of start walking around, and we finally do hear some gobbling. We're kind of on a ridgetop, and there's some ag fields down below us that we had access to. Yeah. And so we hear some gobbling, and so we go all the way back around, and we start kind of making our way to where this turkey was and striking, and a few more gobbles. And Aaron goes up in front of us, and Aaron was like in recon in the Marines. Like, this guy, he's the guy you want in front. He's a good turkey hunter. He is. He's a good caller. He's killed a ton of birds. He's a good guide. And I was glad he was with us because I wanted somebody he can, use a mouth call really well and all that shit. So he gets a fan and I'm probably going to get crap for us using a fan from the meme pages if they even care. But
they're not going to give you crap because it didn't work.
Well, so Aaron, that's a good point. Like everybody thinks it's an automatic. Well, Aaron's got this fan and an avian decoy, and we're behind it. He's like, all right, get behind me, and we're going to walk.
You guys hold
close,
each other's hips when you walk?
Basically.
Okay.
And so it's him. Aaron's short. Aaron's a shorty. And then it's Adam, who's 6'7", and him hunched over is still like 5'9". And so we got this fan out, and Aaron's hunched over walking behind it. Adam's hunched over as far as he can. He's basically trying to walk on his knees, like going forward a little bit at a time.
I'm imagining this and hearing the Pink Panther music.
Yeah, I'm behind
background.
Adam, and then Scott's behind all of us. And we're trying to stay in a line. And in my mind, I'm like, we're getting way too aggressive here. Because once we got into the open of this kind of road, it was a little bit of a road from one field to the next. Mm-hmm. I'm like, we're way too exposed here. And we're right in the middle of it, heading right at them. And I'm thinking, this is never going to work. And this turkey's out in this field strutting like 300 or 400 yards away. And Aaron's committed, man. And he's just kind of slowly walking forward.
Was he calling or anything?
At that point, a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. And in my opinion, I was thinking we need to go set up because the timber was right next to us. I was thinking we'd set up, sneak out, put a decoy out behind the fan, get out behind the fan, put a decoy out, and then get back over, and then just start calling and try to get him in.
Yeah.
But I am not an aggressive hunter, deer hunting, turkey hunting. I'm very much like Dad. I mean, that's the style I've grown up with. Mm-hmm. Mark's the exact opposite, very aggressive guy. They run and gun and they fan and they'll do any tactic they need to do, and they're good at it. And Aaron's kind of got that mentality too. So anyways, we're moving, inching forward, and all of a sudden the turkey slicks down and takes off running like he's what's that real fast?
Like the Roadrunner?
Usain Bolt.
Oh, yeah.
Like fast.
He gone.
He was gone. And Aaron turned around. He's like, "Hey, must have spooked on something." I'm thinking,
what do you think spooked him?
Well, it could have been us.
Maybe a coyote, or
stab
maybe
in the dark. I think it was us.
The choo-choo train of humans walking towards him.
So that was it. That was the only chance we had all morning. And we went and struck the other parts of that property. We went back down to this area. We saw there was a bunch of jakes, and
what's Adam's attitude like? When
he's the nicest. He is genuinely such a nice guy.
Okay, so he wasn't like sour. Like hey,
no,
nice
no,
job, guys.
He's a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. Okay. He's big into his faith, and for him, he said that he needed a morning like this. He doesn't get to do it often when he's in the season, and when he's in St. Louis, he's like, man, I needed this. Just seeing the sunrise, being around nature, the birds chirping, like being with you guys. He's like, because we don't get to see him a ton either, but we've had a lot of good camp experiences over the years.
Yeah.
Because hell, I think the first time I hunted with him was probably like 07, 08.
Wow.
And then he was injured 2011. He had Tommy John that year. And so we took him out. I think that was the year we had took him turkey hunting. And then like 2015, he's deer hunted with us. And, so like it was just a good camaraderie type of a thing.
Reconnect.
But he finally turns and he goes, guys, it's like, if you want to hang out, he's like, we could go to dinner. He's like, if you want, you could bring your shotgun and just lean it against the side. Like we don't have to keep this facade up of going out to get up so dang early. But he was a good sport about it. And they all Aaron had to leave early. Scott and Wayno both had to leave early. I had a commitment up there. I had to go look at another piece of property anyways. Yeah. So we didn't get to hunt till 1. We only hunted till like 10:30 or so. But it was fun. Sure. I mean, it's always a good time. It's never a bad time going out and turkey hunting, especially. It's not like deer hunting. It's never a bad time turkey hunting.
And that's kind of what I miss about the way that I turkey hunt, because mostly I'm going out by myself, sitting in a stupid blind for hours by myself. Yeah. Although this year, I will say, like, despite the fact that I haven't killed anything yet, I feel like I've spent more time scouting and observing and listening and just understanding turkey behavior a little bit better.
Yeah.
I called 3 longbeards in at my buddy's piece. He's got a little strip of timber behind his house. It was just like just like it's supposed to happen. They come walking in, strutting and stuff at 15 yards. And I got a little greedy with the footage, thinking that they would come in and work the decoys. But that was another kind of aha moment for me, is that even though they may lock in and come in to near the decoys, it doesn't mean they're gonna get in and among and fight the decoys. And that's,
well, if it's not the dominant bird, or there's a lot of scenarios there in that pecking order that might dictate that too.
And time of the season, the amount of testosterone they have, and I end up not killing in that scenario, and I would just could have kicked myself, because it just was perfect, except for the non-killing part. So, but that's all part of the process.
Part of it.
Yep. Okay, well, our buddy John has a question for us in this week's question of the day.
All right, the question of the day is proudly presented by DeerGrow. Just 1 2.5 gallon of plot start gives the effect of 1 ton of line and works 3 times as fast. Holy crap, I feel like I'm a damn mathematician here. Let me go back through that.
I just read numbers.
All right, so just one container. That's a 2.5 gallon container of plot start. Gives the effect of 1 ton of line.
Slow down there, Einstein.
And works 3 times as fast. Now, if for you slow people at home, get the abacus out. So we have one, and it's a container. And in that one container, there's 2.5 gallons of plot start. Okay? You still with me, Tim?
I wrote it, so I'm...
Okay. So this gives the effect of 1 ton. You know how much a ton is? It's a ton.
It's like 2,000-ish pounds,
Something
right?
like that. It's like the size of a big
2,000 car. 2,000-pound car.
And it works 3 times. Not 1, not 2, but 3 times as fast as putting lime down. Scott, you got that? Bring that over here. Just so happens we got one right here.
How many gallons is that container? Jeez.
Holy moly. Okay. Oh, my goodness. All right. So this is liquid concentrate. For dummies out there like me, it's got all the directions on it. We've been using this stuff for a couple of years. Aaron Bennett turned us onto it for our food plots here, with Scott and myself. So we've been using it for a couple of years, but they did just come on board, and Mark and Terry and the guys are also going to be using it this spring and fall. So super excited about that. They got a couple cool products, but it is a super easy way to go about kind of giving your plots the appropriate things they need.
Yeah, especially for guys that aren't ag guys, that don't have the a big a tractor and all the machinery that you need that you would kind of sweeten up a field. That's a great
you put that in your sprayer, you're good to go. So I mean, you could probably screw up the amounts of this or that,
just like anything. So read the directions.
Anyhow, all right, so let's see what John's got.
Question, maybe more for Tim than Matt.
Oh, thanks, John.
In the morning, when you're getting ready to ride out to your proposed hunting spot on your electric bike, are you using a red lamp on the bike or a white one? And then the second part of my question that kind of deals with this, you're slipping in nice and super quiet. How do you get your climbing sticks up the tree for your saddle without banging them around and getting them from ground to where you need them before you hang your saddle? Thanks much for all you guys do. Enjoy the show, and I look forward to seeing what you guys got.
Yeah, Tim, how do you get in without getting banged in your saddle?
Don't laugh, you guys, because it just encourages them. Well, John. So I am a big proponent of no light if I can help it, because typically I'm like, the places where I'm hunting, I can't even ride a bike into. So there are very few places where I utilize an e-bike, although like the Bourbon Farm is a great place to get in quietly. But if I'm going to use a light, I use a red light for deer.
Same.
Obviously, turkeys can see red, so it doesn't do you any good to use a red light on a turkey hunt. But red is my choice. I've heard people use green also, but I'm pretty sure the deer cannot see red. So if I use a light at all, I use red.
Same. And in general, try not to at all. I mean, you get, which in his case, I understand what he's saying. Like, you riding those bikes in, we did it a few times during deer season the past couple of years. they can go fast. And so you have to be very careful. If you can't see, you could easily run into something, a branch, whatever the case may be, and flip that thing. So you got to be careful. So in his instance, you do want to have a light of some sort on. I would go with red.
Yep.
100%.
I've walked up on deer in the timber with a red light on. It's weird because I've been downwind. I think they hear something coming, but they can't see. And you can see them plain as day, but they just can't see the light. It's a crazy thing.
Did you take the Rogue Ridge the other day hunting?
If I were to kill the bird.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So
we took it with us. We intended to use it Friday, and then once Adam came, we ended up getting the tracker because there was 4 of us. So
sure.
But the plan was for Scott and I to ride in silently and just use that to go striking.
We need to get some pegs for the Rogue Ridge.
Oh my goodness.
Something to think about. So
Speaking of saddles,
as far as getting up into a tree, like with your climbing sticks, I like to put the climbing sticks up before I hunt because they can do a lot of clanging around. If I can't do that, then I'll clip them to my saddle, but I'll clip them staggered so they're not all hanging at the same length, so they're not all right there like a wind chime. And they tend to make less noise, but I go slow, I go methodically, and I'll put one up as I climb the tree. But if you stagger them as they hang off because I've tried different setups, I can't really put them on my backpack because you just can't reach back there and grab them. But just stagger them as they hang off the straps off your saddle, and that's probably the best way to do it.
Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for the question, John.
Yeah, John, hit me up in the Rack Pack. Shoot me a Facebook message with your name and address, and we'll get you out a Rack Pack hat.
Alan, how are we running on time? Hour 6. All right, let's skip the wildlife word today and just get to the shout-outs and Rack Pack.
Let's do it. Big Hunter 08 gave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. He said, love the podcast, guys. Been watching Mark and Terry the last 25 years. Can't wait every week for the podcast to drop. Always a good listen and love the soundboard. Thank you, Big Hunter. And then he said, I predict Matt's killing a 180 plus next year and Mr. Tim's killing a 200 out of the saddle.
Boy.
Woo.
Wouldn't that be something?
Keep it up and best of luck this spring. It would be something. I may get like a combined 200-inch year. Like if I add up all my deer.
Yeah,
but
I'm
one
with you.
deer, not sure about that.
All right, so it's been a while with the Longbeard Legend series. We didn't get to do any of the shenanigans. We got the Rack Pack. We're welcoming new Rack Pack members every week, and it's been a few weeks since we've done this. So the Rack Pack is a private Facebook group over. You just go to type in Drury Outdoors Rack Pack, I think.
Yep.
And it'll come up. And every week Tim prints out a few names. Every week I read them, butcher them, and every week there's a fake one in there somewhere.
And these are not everyone's names.
Yeah.
Usually we go in and kind of take a scoop of a chunk of names that come in recently. So we're sorry if we don't get everybody.
All right, so we got Austin Spain, we got James Stevens, we got Jared Gracie, Jenny Cluck and Putt. I'd say that's the fake name. Brandon Wildebeer. Wilber?
Definitely not that.
Mike Johnson, Robert Burns, Howdy Border. No way. Jim Johnson. Well, I was sure it was Jenny Cluck and Putt, but I think we have a couple that could be candidates.
Poor Howdy.
Week. Howdy Border.
I mean, according to Facebook, that appears to be his name.
Brandon Wildeber.
Either Wildeber or Wildhaber.
Ah, the old Wildhaber.
What's a Wildhaber?
All right.
Jared Gracie's the fake one. Nice
Mike
job,
Johnson.
Jared. There's never been a Mike Johnson in the history
We
of
actually
time.
had one that worked for us. Was an editor here for years.
We just got other Mike.
That's right.
All right.
All right. Well, I think we've had enough for today.
Yeah, good luck on the rest of your season, everybody, if you're still out there slogging it out. Remember to enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey, but also identify those targets. Don't pull the trigger unless you know what you're shooting at. Be safe out there. We love yous. Peace out.
DeerCast is now supercharged with maps. Get ahead of your game with killer new features like live Doppler radar, wind check out to 5 days, virtual rain gauges, GPS path tracking, and more. Plus, get our 14-day revolutionary DeerCast prediction and access to DeerCast Track. Prep, predict, and pursue with DeerCast.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast. Prep, predict, and pursue your target buck.